I'm talking again now into the microphone. Check in here. Cool. We are here playing Ultimate. Great.
Inside out, Tim. Then we all good for that? Yes, yes. Excellent. Perfect. Welcome, one and all, to Game 6 of the America's Pro Cup Series, the Eurostars in Chicago, taking on the players of Nemesis. My name is Hannah Pendlebury, and I'm delighted to be joined this fine afternoon, a matinee game, with Laurie Ike, who's having her first time up here in the booth. How are you feeling about this matchup today, Laurie?
I am so stoked. This game is going to be great. We've got some great players here from Europe. We've got the Chicago women's team Nemesis. It's going to be a great matchup. The weather's delightful. This is the best day we've had in Chicago all summer.
Well, it is indeed dreamy conditions to play Ultimate. Just a bit of a fluttering of wind caressing the rubber-chrome turf in front of us, and we have the players lining up, being announced here live in the stadium. Currently, it's the Eurostars' turn, who at the moment have only suffered one defeat in the series. They lead 8-3, and Nemesis have to get a win by 2 points or more if they're going to keep the hopes of Team America alive and taking home this silverware this year. Of course, it's one apiece thus far. This is the third year of the Eurostars tour. Of course, the first year in 2017 went to Team America, but Team Europe were the victors eventually last year, currently sweeping the biggest teams in the USA series, the women of Europe, currently having had wins against San Diego Wildfire in sudden death. They snagged 1 point there. Then they went on to face Seattle Riot, the current reigning world double champions. Of course, they secured that hold of victory in Cincinnati last year. Went against San Francisco Fury, the current USA champions. And then, of course, the first loss against Raleigh of Phoenix, who managed to dominate that game and take 3 points on the board for Team America. Last stop, of course, being Boston, where we saw a huge 5-point lead stretched out by the women of Europe to take that one. Eventually, after some nice trades, but plenty of spicy stuff in the highlight reel. Laurie, in terms of Nemesis this season, how are they going so far?
Well, it's been a mixed season, but they've really been working hard, and they've really shown up against some of the best teams. It was at the Open Club Championship. They played Seattle Riot to within 1 point. They had 3 really close losses there. They're really out here looking for fire, and I think it's going to be a good game.
Well, It certainly is. I have to say, Chicago's been my favourite stop on the tour thus far. It's my kind of city. And talking to Nemesis ahead of this game, they're really my kind of team. They've got such a nice energy and atmosphere. Laurie, is there a personal connection you have to this team? Perhaps you've played on their roster before?
Indeed, I have. I played on the Nemesis roster from 2008 through 2012. And since then, everyone on the team right now is new since then. The longest reigning member on the team is Jacqueline Jarek. She joined the team in 2013. Risa Umeno started in 2014. Everyone since then is newer. So it's a young, feisty team. They've really just shown a lot of heart this year.
Well, I'm certainly going to be on the edge of my seat to see how this game develops. Such a feisty, young, up-and-coming team. Had the pleasure of seeing a couple of their, well, at least one of their roster at the World Under-24 Championships back in Heidelberg. So keep your eyes peeled on the field for number 18, Sarah Kim. Are there any other players you'd highlight?
Yeah, keep an eye out for Jenny Corcoran, number 12. We'll see the offense really running through her on Nemesis. She's the sort of the primary handler there, and she really takes over when she gets the disc. Also downfield, look out for Jessie Ladone, number 22. She's got some wheels on her. She can get to any deep disc I have seen put up. So she's really going to come down with a lot today. Expect to see a lot from her.
Well, we will get play underway very shortly, but first, a message from some of our sponsors. Welcome back to the beginning moments of this live streamed game, the Eurostars Tour Americas Pro Cup, as Nemesis of Chicago fight to keep the dream alive for Team America. We have the first pull of the game in but a few minutes. In fact, it will be, well, I think we're running a tiny bit behind schedule actually out here on the field, so who knows when it will be as the two teams are lined up. But we are delighted to have our first poll sponsored by Delta S Performance, functional neurology and sports medicine for your home for neurological rehabilitation for post-concussive syndrome. You can visit their website for more info at deltasperformance.com. That's DELTAS performance.com. So coming out on offense will be Team Europe, as we see with the disc in hand, preparing for the pull, just out of my view. I think that might be number 10. Is that right, Laurie?
I can't quite see.
Well, we are delighted to be sat in a bit of an uncouth commentary booth. There's no press box here at the TW Spear Academy. ITW Spear Academy, there we go. And we're actually in a classroom sat on some very nostalgic little chairs with desks affixed. So, Eurostars getting us underway here. So we see the line with the captain backs forth, donning a in these very sunny conditions. The number 23 centre of the field now. Nice movement around. Domanskaya now with the disc finds Toshnerova of Poland, but an early game error from Sarah Melvin's going to give Nemesis the first opportunity for a break. Nice movement to the far side of the field. Snag on the upline for Cassandra Brown. He's going to launch it deep early and up into the air. It's going to sit and hand Domanskaya under it, but doesn't need to make a play as that one will land firmly out of bounds.
The wind today is really starting to pick up. I'm looking over at the trees. There's a lot of gusts right now, and I think that's really going to we're going to have to adjust here. And if we want to, for Nemesis is going to have to adjust in order to capitalize on those throws.
Yeah, a nice attempt from Brown there, but not to be in the end. Cassandra Brown, of course, one of the students at the University of Chicago, was 20 years old and plays for University of Chicago Super Snatch, which I think is an absolutely fantastic team. I actually run one myself called Golden Snatch. So big friends there as we see a huge reception from Elisa Tizik rolling to the floor to keep possession alive for Team Europe. Toshnerova now surveys the upfield cuts around to Domanskaya, who directs some traffic upfield, finds her fellow teammate Elisa Tizik of Russia, and a nice clap catch layout from Kublitska of Poland. Puts it up into the end zone and just about manages to keep her claws around it, does Toshnerova, and punches it in for the score. Nice reaching grab, Elisa Tizik, and that's first point on the board for the Eurostars. So nice to see the women of Europe coming out after that early turnover. And obviously that's the big ambitious sky ball from Cassandra Brown. What do you think of the offense that the Eurostars put together there, Laurie?
That was really smooth. You could see them just taking the opportunities they had. It was a really nice around to the outside over there, and just popping it right in where it needed to go. That was a nice, smooth offense from the Eurostars, and Nemesis defense is really going to have to step up there in order to shut that down.
Well, we will see how Nemesis choose to respond. The players, of course, in white, as we see the European team donning some very flary sort of. I'm not entirely sure how I feel myself about the design, but certainly wonderful to have Lucky Grass as one of our sponsors, providing such wonderful breathable uniforms in what have been some pretty warm conditions out here in the States. Not any of the games have yet to be affected by any rain, which is definitely a very different story from last year, where the game was actually rain delayed in Atlanta. And of course, Nemesis themselves, no stranger to rain and lightning delays after their weekend recently at the Elite Select Championship. So on offense now, moving the disc nicely and patiently. But that's an overthrow off of the palms of Abby Shaw. And unfortunately, the catch there not able to be made. And a relatively short field given to the women of Europe. Brinjel picks up the disc. Has an available Klibitska up the line, punches it into the middle. What a pick-off! Sarah Lipscomb charging into the centre of the field and gaining the disc back for the Chicago team. Oh, that's a beautiful put. Sits and hangs for days. There's the attempt of the play on it, but it's going to have to be a hero redemption if it can. Eileen Duffner, just unfortunate error there. Unable to make the redemption after some hot pressure applied from Grażyna Chlebicka.
That was a really great look there. It was a great idea. You can see Jenny's putting those up on these downwind shots. We know that she's going to want to be looking deep on these downwind looks, and that one just didn't quite connect. Eurostars are right there for defense.
Oh, an immediate response from the arm of Anna Gerner. She tries to connect with her fellow German, but so unfortunate. Livka Volchak unable to connect.
What an attempt there. That was a great look.
Well, known for her buttery, silky, smooth hucks is Gerner, as Well, Chicago put towards the end zone. It's another bobbled catch, but it's redeemed by the arms of Blatt.
That was great picking up the trash there, Danielle. That was a really nice follow through on that offense. This wind is really tricky, and it's the catches are a little tougher than usual, but Nemesis is able to capitalize.
Well, Blatt, they're sneaking on. She's not actually on our formal roster sheets, Laurie, but great to have her out on the field, and I'm sure Nemesis will be delighted that she was able to make that hero reception after her teammate was unable to get the better of that disc. Something that we're going to see from Nemesis, this is an unusual experience. Most Ultimate teams, of course, are used to playing tournament formats over a weekend, whereas this time out it's a home game and a one-off. So we're going to see them bringing out all of their players, including some of their practice players, which is really good to see.
Got Lindsay Hack over there coaching on the field with her little one, who's also the assistant coach today.
Oh, excellent. The tiny human, how old are they? A couple months?
At least 2? I lose track.
Well, of course, it's one of the greatest challenges of a female athlete's career. If she chooses to become a mum, of course, that is an optional choice. You think of players who do manage to come back to the field after that oftentimes very difficult experience of creating life and expanding one's own family. So the Eurostars now off to a great start on this offensive hold, and that's beautiful stuff. Finding Kenneth in the end zone and a pretty little dart celebration twirling around in the end zone.
What a cut there. That was just, she exploded right out of that hole and was wide open for that score.
So pretty much as quick and smooth as it comes as the Eurostars punch in another on the board. Already finding a good rhythm here, both teams. Not too sloppy, not too long points, and a nice display of throws. So if you're Coach Hack, Laurie, after that rather nice piece of offense where the Eurostars just seem to move the disc so rapidly, what sort of adjustments would you be thinking about making?
I might consider changing which way I'm forcing, or maybe changing changing the angle. Perhaps instead of change the mark a little bit, cover the arounds better. But really, it comes down to just getting a little more intense on defense, getting prepared for each throw that's going to come up, and staying tight to your woman and staying on defense.
So Eurostars now coming out on defense, seeing if they can snag another break against Chicago Nemesis. Picking up, we have the number 1, Ali Fish, one of the captains for the Nemesis side, giving us all the goss earlier on as a huge layout attempt from Livka Volchak comes up empty-handed. Nice centre to Fish now. Good movement across, giving and going with Corcoran. Oh, he throws it low, but scooped up out of the turf by Matsumoto. Now knocking on the door of their next point are Chicago Nemesis. A jink up the sideline, and Corcoran for the score.
That was great patience and great communication on the field for that goal there. You could see they made eye contact. They knew exactly where they were going to hit it, and it turned into a goal. It was a great look.
Well, after a clean hold for the Eurostars, the Nemesis side respond in kind, levelling us back up. So, of course, I misspoke a moment ago, Laurie. There have been no breaks thus far in this game. We are just trading on serve at the moment as these two teams find the rhythm of each other.
It's going to come down to getting a little bit tighter on defense now, starting to generate those turnovers. Both teams are very skilled with the disc, and they're not going to just hand it over. They're going to have to take it away if they want to get that disc back on defense.
So as we keenly await the next point of this match, if this is perhaps your first time watching the Eurostars games, or perhaps Ultimate more generally, first of all, welcome to you. And of course, anybody else who is watching, you can reach out to us. I'm at DiscGal31 on Twitter. And Laurie, what's your handle?
At IROLLORI on Twitter.
Excellent. So, if you're not familiar with the Eurostars Tour, you'd be delighted to know that there are 5 games already in the can that you can go and watch back. But a little bit of a story about this team. It's an all-star European team, so players that are used to playing against each other out here on the field, trying to work those connections, having only met on the 10th of August. That was their first training together back in San Diego. But as they advance towards the end zone, Toshnerova finds 4th in the center of the field. Some sort of call around Dina Domanskaya, the talismanic Russian handler, standing a towering 6'3". I think I've mentioned that probably every game so far, but it's a fact worth noting out on the field. Such a difficult player to mark as you see her stretching out those long, lengthy limbs. She thought about being a model, Laurie, but it turns out she's too tall, because when she puts a pair of heels on, she would tower over the other women on the runway. But that's a beautiful score as Lasma Kublitska just runs and lays out into the front corner of the end zone.
That was amazing. That was great. Great energy. Great fight. Great job, Eurostars.
Well, talking about modelling, that score was picture perfect as Lasma Kublitska runs away with the disc. So another clean hold. Good movement of the Eurostars up the field, and perhaps a little bit of a higher pressure score. Not the biggest space, but and having of course to redeem not a perfectly placed pass.
No, it's great, and what you can see is the Nemesis pressure is mounting up. Nemesis is starting to put on a little more defense. Eurostars are working harder to get that disc, and they're still succeeding. And we'll see when that breaking point is, and when we actually start to see these D lines start to take over.
So in terms of, we've already mentioned the fact that the Eurostars team have only just come together for this scene. Nemesis, more of an established unit with players ranging from age 18 to 31, obviously established for a little while. Have they penetrated the very top echelons of women's ultimate here in the USA yet, Laurie?
Oh, absolutely. Nemesis has been around as a team since 1986. And has been one of the top teams in the country, I think, since they began.
Well, it's certainly showing some cool, calm, mature handler movement around the back as we see the players going to work. Corcoran there on the disc, playing a bit of give-go with Sarah Davis. Nice find over on the far side to Eileen Duffner, who, of course, was the intended target, I think, for the first score of this game for Nemesis. They tried to get that cheeky break, first point of the game, but the overthrow just bounced out of her hands. Bit too much spice layered upon it as Lipscomb goes to work, and that's a nice shot, and just inside the goal line, Erika Danikers with the score. Just going to have a discussion with Barbara Kundelita as to whether the back foot was inbounds or not. So it's not going to be called good on the field, but enviable position. Scoring opportunities ripe here if Dankers can find a target. Resets around to Corcoran, and that's a beautiful quick release to expose the break side. Another point on the board for Chicago Nemesis.
That was great field awareness there, knowing where that she was at on the goal line and hopping it in to just make sure she caught it inbounds in the goal for a point. And earlier we saw that great look from Davis up the line to Dankers. It was a really great vision there. She saw her open player and was able to just hit her right on the button, right on the nose there. It was a great look. Davis, formerly a Riot player from Seattle, comes to Nemesis now and is really helping out that team's handler line.
Well, that definitely was one of the key features I'd highlight at that point, was just how nicely and easily Nemesis moved the disc around the backfield, just patiently waiting for the opportunities in the deep space. And wonderful work by Erica Dankers to pull it in, but couldn't quite make the footwork to have the immediate score. And as I already said, that on the bounce backhand around break, just tearing open the far side of the end zone. So we continue to trade here at the ITW Spear Academy, game 6 of 7 of the Americas Pro Cup, and a rolling pull from the players of Nemesis. Immediate yard gaining of Aline Mondiaux, Rasta of France. I'm sure her Yaka teammates will be watching this one. So we have an earlier game slot, and then of course the European audience only 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, as a huge shot goes up from Kublitska and finds the knee sliding captain Bex 4 for another point.
Jacqueline Jarek just couldn't quite get there fast enough, but she was really accelerating, and that was a great patience and composure held by Bex 4th there to keep that goal and catch that goal.
Well, if there's anyone I'd say has good mental fortitude, it's certainly Rebecca 4th. She's wearing all of the hats for this Eurostars side: captain, coach, team manager. And as that shot went up from Kublitska, I didn't see Bex 4th at all. What a find. So still, trading out here. Currently game on serve. Eurostars having started on offense. And we have already been traded to a couple of highlight reel worthy plays, Laurie.
Absolutely. These teams are both really putting all their effort out onto the field right now.
I'm in particular impressed by the throwing prowess being displayed here. Some lovely deep shots in spite of quite a strong and present wind. So Corcoran in the lovely red trucker cap, bringing the out of bounds pull to the brick mark. Matched up against Ines Bringella, Portugal, and an easy clap catch miss by Eileen Duffner. Perhaps the wind just catching the edge of the disc. So Gerner now of Germany picking up and getting things underway, but there's a miscommunication between her fellow countrywoman. Liv Kovalchuk has to go off to the races to try and prevent the early deep shot, which she does. Abby Shaw getting things underway with her leg straight away. Corcoran now. Disc in the centre of the field puts up an absolute beauty of a roll cove. That's going to sit into the deep space just on the break side. What a throw.
Great look there. That was a great throw, great run. Nice work, Nemesis.
Well, with throwing skills like that, I think Chicago can perhaps maybe state themselves as not quite the underdog others might have expected in this matchup.
Well, Corcoran is doing a really great job of seeing those deep space, and her cutters are capitalizing on that. Corcoran looks down the field on these downwind points, sees the opportunity, and gets her teammates to go to those spots. This is why they're scoring. This is why they're catching these long throws, and this is working for them right now.
And as we see there, Lindsay Heck, the coach, being followed around by an adorable supporter jersey, the tiny human. And shout out, of course, to the Eurostars. I'm not going to say they're their favourite fans, but they're definitely in with a pretty good bid. The 4th family back at home watching all of these live stream games in Texas. Shout out to Sol, Henrietta, Felix and Hugo. Felix, the youngest of the 4th clan, He's got himself a wonderful little supporter jersey, which is laid out for him every day. And if you want to see that on Instagram, you can check out Eurostars Tour on all good social media platforms. And of course, if you're enjoying this coverage, do reach out to us on Twitter, but you can also head over to eurostarstour.com/support and make your donation if you're enjoying this free streaming coverage coming live at you from Chicago. So Tizik puts up a low flat flick towards the end zone. Kenneth suddenly donning a necky. That looks like it's come out of the bag of Livka Volchak, known for those as Melvin makes a high clap catch as the Eurostars advance towards the end zone, puts it up high and snatched out of the air by Bex Forth. What a huge grab as she distributes to Elisa Tizik for another goal for the Eurostars.
That was a great catch by Forth and great work all around by Tizik. She has been running this field. She's very consistent with her cut. She's open all the time. Her throws are beautiful. Just one of those. She hasn't really seen the scoreboard so much yet this game, but she's really a huge part of that offense.
Yeah, wonderful release on that throw, actually. So we saw that big, high, reaching grab from Bexforth and the distribution to Tizik, but I was so impressed with how she released the disc on that long yard gainer to Kenneth, who obviously shocked me that she suddenly pulled out the orange necky. Kenneth isn't favoured for donning the neck wear on the field. I reckon that is indeed a lend from her teammate Livka Volchak, whose favourite colour is orange. Fun fact for you there. But to have the wind behind you and throw what's quite a low huck, to not have it smooshed down into the field is just testament to the throwing prowess of Tizik.
Yeah, Tizik does a great job of getting low on all her forehands. She bends her knees really well, and her release point is pretty low, and that is a huge advantage when you're playing in wind like this. The lower you can get that throw to the ground, the more consistent your throws are going to be, and the easier it's going to be for your cutters.
Well, and as we suspected, Laurie, with the early matinee game here, local time just after 1 o'clock, well, 1:30 actually, and we have a shout out already from over in France, Martin Ottenwalter, there with Go Mondio, France is watching you, and a lovely photograph. Thank you ever so much for that message as we see the Eurostars gain the disc back. And could this be the first break of the game? Well, only time will tell as we see a missed connection for the European women on what should have been a relatively easy handler reset. So Fish now, the captain of Nemesis, finds the upfield cut of Shaw, who's going to put the disc out in front, but miles too far for the intended target of Sarah Lipscomb.
Yeah, just a missed execution there. Lipscomb wasn't quite accelerating to that spot, and the throw didn't hang quite enough for it.
Yeah, an unfortunate error there for Nemesis. A nice cut as it was developing, but just not quite enough. So the Eurostars with a second opportunity for the score here, and of course the first break of the game. Gerner of Germany in the centre of the field to Dull, who's been so good at throwing these deep shots. It sits, it hangs, it's going to be too far for Livka Volchak after a wonderful early pressure bid from Jenny Corcoran.
Yeah, that pressure from Jenny was really important for that turnover there.
So Lipscomb, a nice find, but again an execution error. This time it's from Blatt. The number 15 unable to keep her begloved hands around the frisbee. That, of course, of Overland Park, Kansas, I think, originally.
We've got a timeout, Chicago.
Well, this isn't entirely surprising to see. And of course, you've got the split out sort of timeout. What's the word? Strategy here. So you've got the 7 on the field in their own little huddle, getting a bit of wise words of wisdom from Coach Raj Prasad. So if you're Prasad, what have you just said to the 7 players out on the field here, Laurie?
Well, I'm probably telling them to take a breath. It's been a longer point, longer than some of the other points we've had. We had more turnovers this point, but now it's a matter of just getting back out there and playing your hardest.
Well, turning into a bit of a grindy point here on the field. Still very early stages of the game, though. But if you're black, you've got to be kicking yourself in the back of the ankles after that. Just a little bit of a miscue on the clap catch. Perhaps, as we said, the wind is a factor here. Currently going from the left-hand side to the right-hand side of your screen. But of course, the Eurostars currently sitting pretty in the lead. So, nice find to Paulina Dull. Has Gerner going up line, but chooses the around to Chlebicka. The 2 Polish women working very effectively. Lindruts now into Kundelita. He's been a little bit quiet so far in the series for the Eurostars. Talented player coming out of Lithuania, one of the tiniest federations in the European scene. Polchak now looking a little bit lost for options. They eventually come, but it's going to be swatted away by Lipscomb with a huge defensive play for Nemesis. Corcoran now surveying the deep space, has the cutter available. It's black. Can she make the catch this time? Just runs out of gas a little bit too far on the throw.
Just not quite there, but giving the Eurostars another chance for a break here.
So Bringel of Portugal, a player known for her skills on sand, now on the rubber crumb today. Of course, if you do live in Portugal, it's no surprise that you'd be playing on beach. It's a beautiful country. Had the delight of hosting the European Beach Ultimate Championships, where Bringel was playing with the Portuguese mixed team, who took another 4th place. Seems to be their lucky number.
Does Portugal have a women's team?
They've just managed to get the numbers to put together some women's teams this season. So great to see that rising nation still able to produce such talented players like Bringel, as we see an absolute spicy throw from Chlebicka. What a release on that inside shot. And now good movement laterally across the field. Dull's going to put a deep one up. It sits and hangs in the wind. Can it be redeemed? No, the launch is there, but the catch isn't for Ines Bringel.
That play was so close, and it was a great look. You could see that movement across the field and finding the spot downfield there. But just wasn't quite enough.
So it seems like we might be continuing to trade. Nice put up the line, tippy-toed in by Monica Matsumoto, but Dull's going to call it out of bounds, and immediately she releases the disc, relinquishes it into the turf.
One more chance here for Eurostars for the break.
And a relatively short field too, Laurie.
This is where it's really fun, lining up your end zone plays here.
Ines is going to try and do it with 1 point score. And unfortunately, looks like she might have needed to take a couple more passes and maybe move the disc laterally. Gives it back to Nemesis, who suffered from a little bit of double cutting on the unders. Squeezes it around to Corcoran. Back to Fisher. Sorry, Fish even. Unusual surname, Fish, without the ER after it. But the attempt from Abby Shaw can't quite bring it in. Bringel now, disc back in hand, takes a slightly less adventurous shot towards the end zone. Chlebicka eyeing up the around, has Gerner in acres of yards, but is going to find an exposed Lindrut for the score up the line.
Yeah, her defender really, she didn't have anyone looking at her or paying attention, and she was able to sneak right over there unguarded.
And that is the first break of score here, and it goes to the women of Europe.
That was a great capitalization on that turnover by Eurostars. It was a great score.
Well, they definitely had lots of opportunities to try and capitalise, Laurie. That was, let's say, a bit of a grinder of a point.
I only remember the last possession.
Well, that's always a beneficial quality to have as a player. Is just the ability to forget what's just been behind you and focus on the now.
We'll see if Nemesis can respond with an upwinder here.
Well, it's interesting actually. The wind has just changed direction. If we look at towards the right-hand side of the field behind the end zone, there's some wonderful flags that are pointed pretty much firmly in a crosswind now.
I stand corrected. This is true. We'll see now if Nemesis can take advantage of the shifty wind that Chicago has delivered.
But it is very pleasant out today. Not too hot, not too cold. Pretty much Goldilocks. The only thing really is this wind that's just sort of swirling around the field. It's quite exposed here. Don't have the highest, biggest stands. Quite unlike North Carolina, of course, which had such sweaty, sticky, muggy conditions that really just added that extra little something to help Phoenix take the first and only win thus far against the Eurostars as they apply a zone look with a pretty mighty Kapsi Domanskaya there in the centre, are now applying what looked to be like a mark for a moment. But nice exposure as Nemesis thread the needle through, unable to find any momentum upfield though. Corcoran in front, high stall situation, eventually scoots herself round to the back, throws a blade over the top, and that's a wonderful reception for Sarah Kim, who distributes over the top. Big fakes coming out of the arms of Nemesis right now to try and move the zone around. Foster using lengthy limbs to great effect. Another nice sinker from Corcoran, a shot up line. Now seems to be really jailbreaking through the zone. Willingham is going to put a big one up to a player in space. Oh, how close was Sarah Melvin, but cannot deny the score for Nemesis.
And that was number 72, Jackie Jarek.
JJ, my spy on the inside. Thank you so much. I'm sure she'll be watching this one back later, but after a lovely score under pressure from Sarah Melvin, have to give her massive props for distributing some player surveys ahead of time, being the administrative hero that we need up here in the booth. And of course, thank you also to all of our lovely hosts, including your good self, Laurie. Who have you been hosting these Chicago evenings?
Oh, I've had 8 of these women here hanging out in my house. It's been fantastic, and I've got to learn a lot about European Ultimate, how to pronounce European names, and about really how fun this tour has been for them.
Oh, and you've also been, as we all have on the Eurostars, I suppose we could be an entourage. We'll say that. We're entourage members. It's the thing that's been most enjoyable well, for myself as a foodie, is the amount of feeding we've been having. So Ian and Hey Yip have been delighting us to barbecues. The host of myself and a couple of the other players has been John and Suzanne Falk, the Falk family, who are in the stands this fine afternoon. We've had barbecues, we've had Thai for lunch. It's just been, we've had cheese boards. That's been really great. The cheese on offer here in Chicago, top notch.
That's another pull by Nemesis Emily Willingham.
And coming flying in is Sarah Kim, the gold medalist from Heidelberg, but a few short months ago, playing for the under-24 women's team for the USA. And some faking around shoots for Klibitska. It's a big high sky ball, and that's a big lot of contact between Livka Volchak and Grażyna Klibitska. Poland and Germany having a bit of friction, which of course those of you who are history nerds will already be familiar with, but thankfully this time we're all friends. So Great shutdown defense from Lindrut on the attempt at the handler reset, and Paulina Dahl comes in and snatches the disc away. Lindrut to Volchak. Oh, she's going to put it up, but it's going to be, oh my goodness, just redeemed. Paulina Dahl makes good on the missed defensive block on heartbreak for Nemesis, but what a redemption. The way Dahl adjusted there was just sensational.
I think that was Rachel Foster for the D attempt. She had a piece of it, but Dahl was right there to pick it up, and she stayed focused, and she stuck with it.
Well, as you see there on the replay, just fingertips away from tipping the disc into the dirt, and that's another break for Eurostars. They lead and take us to within 1 of half. I say another break. I think I'm wrong. I think that was just getting the disc back, no? Oh, it was actually, yes. There we go. I have to remember earlier on in the point the furious rundown from Sarah Kim.
One of the benefits of co-coaching with your life partner is that you can co-parent on the field as well. Right now we see Raj Prasad also with his tiny human.
And so Prasad there donning the Nemesis white, blending in with the players on the field. Whereas Lindsay Hack, as we already have seen some wonderful colourful shots of, is sporting a little bit of a bump after her delivery of another life onto the world. So congratulations to Lindsay and Raj. Be delighted to see, I'm sure, that lovely new baby turn into a wonderful athlete, whether or not they choose to have ultimate as their sport or not. But Nemesis now looking to keep this half alive as they trail by 2 points. Corcoran with a nice reaching low grab far sideline opens up the big huck. Again, eyes on it is the number 23, looks like. Actually, no, can't be 23. Oh, it is 23. The cheeky Caitlin Tien, one of the practice players for Nemesis.
Caitlin Tien is a junior at U Chicago. She used to be a soccer player, and we have claimed her for our sport.
Well, I have to say that's great work. Such a physical bid, had to make the catch under heaping contact. But what a throw that was from Corcoran. And she then distributes another live hit on the field. This time it was to Davis. Oh, and another replay. Tizik not able to get up big enough, but neither is Monica Matsumoto, and the disc sails over both players' heads.
Yeah, those can be real tricky to read in this wind.
So Dumanskaya for Europe, bringing the disc back into play. Finds Toshnerova of the Czech Republic on the far side of the field. A knee catch for Sarah Melvin, who is enjoying watching the live stream from the EUCRW tournament that just finished up, as a big hut goes from Dumanskaya to fourth. Nicely collected on the goal line and posted in for a point for the Eurostars, and that is half. 8-5 for Team Europe. So the trusty Russian handler throws another huge disc after some hotly pressured passes by Nemesis. And fourth, the captain, Rebecca Forth, will wrap things up for this first half. Still very much in contention, though. I don't know about you, Laurie, but I've certainly seen stranger things happen on a field than teams coming back from a 3-point deficit.
Yeah, this is the most dangerous deficit in Ultimate, most dangerous lead in Ultimate. If you're up 8-5, you can't rest on your laurels. You can't get complacent. You have not won this game. There's an entire half left to play, and Nemesis is going to be out for blood here.
So we are going to have a rare opportunity for an interview with the captain and coach of the Eurostars team, Rebecca Forth, but we'll have to tantalise you a little bit with that one, because first we're going to have a brief break for some messages from our wonderful sponsors.
Absolutely phenomenal play. And that is a Eurostars win against the current world champions, Seattle Riot. To Laura Ferralfi, can she reel it in? Yes, she can, as that disc dipped perfectly into her hands.
It's fine. It's as long as we get it out. That's the key thing.
All right. So I'll switch over. I'll pump the audio up first, and then I'll switch the camera over. Right. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to halftime here at Game 6 of 7 for the Americas Pro Cup, and I'm delighted to be joined up in our classroom/commentary booth by the wonderful Rebecca Forth, the captain, coach, and just team manager, mum. You wear all of the hats here for Bex.
I have a lot of hats, maybe 5.
Indeed, and of course you're the founder of the Eurostars program. So tell us, why Eurostars?
Well, it's been something that was in my brain for at least 10 years before we actually decided to start it. And I just knew from experience that there were very strong players in Europe. And they couldn't show that they were top of the world because the team couldn't be top of the world because there wasn't enough depth. I also know that those players in all the different countries were putting so much energy into their local teams, their local communities. They were on boards, they were running the national teams, doing so much. And I knew that each cycle, their own competitive desires and goals were not being met, and yet they were putting in years and years and years of dedicated work and energy. And the respect for these players wasn't as strong as my respect for these players, because I knew how they matched up. And I knew that the feeling globally wasn't strong enough, and so locally, the rest of the community didn't value them as much as I thought that they should. So I was trying to work out how we can add value, being visible in strong games where they can match up with a deep team seemed to be a very easy way to get that point across very quickly. And so I always had a belief that together the European All-Stars could really produce very good results. And so, yeah, that's why we started it in the first place.
Awesome. Well, it's definitely been a strong campaign this year. You've already taken down the national and world champions, as well as, plenty of the other top teams here in the USA. And it's been delightful to, from my perspective, commentate those games. If you want to watch those back, make sure you get yourself to Facebook and YouTube. Plenty of game footage to watch. So in terms of then focusing on this game specifically, you're up 2 breaks, so congrats on coming out into the second half strongly. But what have been the key adjustments you've made to win the disc off of Nemesis?
Well, the main physical characteristic of this game is actually the wind. It's very strong wind. It's coming from left to right, and then slightly to the back right corner as well. And it's gusty, so it's going up and down. So it's pretty tricky wind. So we've just been trying to keep possession going downwind and then chipping away on the upwind. And I think you've seen that throughout that first half, that we're making gains each time, starting to put up longer shots going upwind, but really making sure that we're not making errors on the downwind. And we've fiddled about with different Ds and to see what's worked. Sometimes you're not quite sure exactly what's going to work against the team. You can make a good guess. We tried a 4-man zone, but the handlers were very strong. Probably won't do that again. Maybe for a surprise. But yeah, you're always looking for the keys to unlock a team. And I think man on man, we match up really strongly. We've got a very fast team, so I think that's actually going to wear Nemesis out a little bit.
All right, so we'll probably see plenty of person in the rest of this match. So then, obviously this program is about the games, but there's such a wonderful support from the local communities and so many great experiences for the athletes off the field as well as on. What's been your personal highlight of the tour so far?
It was probably the spirit circle after Brute Squad. The spirit of the game was very strong. The community and the fans came out in force, and they were encouraged to come down and join the spirit circle. We call it a spirit U, so there's enough shape for the crowd. And my particular favourite was seeing our hosts in the crowd wearing Eurostars gear, and our hosts were in Boston were all Hall of Famers. My personal one was Molly Goodwin from Lady Godiva, and connecting with a player of that status and ability level. I mean, when I first started playing, Godiva were the tops. So having her and the rest of other Godiva players in the crowd cheering and joining that spirit circle, major highlight.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Beck. We'll let you get to the back to the team.
Thanks
Good
so
luck for
much.
the second half.
Cheers, thank you.
We'll be right back with another interview very, very shortly from Lindsay Hack. So make sure you stay tuned shortly. You too. Thanks, Frank.
Try unplugging and plugging back in that cord. I'm just trying something here. See if we can get something to work. Can you run down and make sure the camera's okay? I just lost connection to his camera too. All right. Well, I lost him, and then I lost you both, and now I got you back. Is that camera back on? Like, if you want to do it the same way, we can do it the same way. Okay. That's yeah, we can do that. 'Cause now I have this thing. I'm gonna take a knee, maybe. Well, just like scoot a little closer to me. Sorry. Alright, so I'm gonna bump your audio up first, and then I'll switch to something else. Three, one, three, two.
Welcome back to halftime. Eurostars are leading Nemesis 8-5. I'm here with Lindsay Hack, and we're going to dig in a little bit about what it means to be the Nemesis coach. So Lindsay, I hear you've got a lot of new players this year. Can you tell me about who's really shining and who the rising stars are in your kind of young team?
Yeah, absolutely. So our average team age is pretty young. I recently remembered that some of our girls were just joking around that the person who's 30 is really old. And I was like, that's very unlike my club experience, but that's okay. So some of the players that have impressed me so far this year, we actually moved Emily Willingham from the O-line to the D-line, and she's just been a force to be reckoned with on the D-line in terms of her pulls, but also her refuse to lose mentality. So she's really impressed me. And then somebody else that's really grown a lot since last year is Sarah Kim. She just finished her last year of school at Northwestern, and they qualified for nationals, and she was on the U24 team, and just a remarkable upward trajectory in the couple of years that I've been blessed to coach her. So those two players have quite impressed me so far this year.
That's great. And this is your fourth year coaching Nemesis.
That is correct.
All right. So how do you build that young talent? What's your strategy? What's your technique?
Trying to get lots of touches. Even though we call lines, I really try and make sure that playing time is pretty distributed pretty evenly. And it's not always perfect, and some games may call for things to be a little bit more uneven than others, but I think it's incredibly imperative that our players get touches. And it's been really difficult, as you might remember. There used to be a time where consolation games didn't really matter, and that's where you got all your touches. And now, as a coach who needs to win during the regular season to get a bid, you have to balance getting touches for your younger players and learning from experience versus winning. So it's a tough balance to strike, but I think we're doing a pretty decent job of it. And the other thing is during the off season we encourage coaching, and we love that a good chunk of these women all went down to Columbia this year in the off season and played in TEP. So those type of international unique experiences. We started we built on a women's league. It had about 40 people playing, and now it has over 100, and it started a women's summer beach league as well. So just trying to get, touches.
Well, I appreciate that you started the Women's Summer Beach League.
Yeah?
I've been taking
Good.
advantage of that myself. Love me some beach in my old age now.
Yeah.
But can you tell me a little more about how you're going to adjust now? With the score, for down 8-5, what are you going to do in the second half to win this game?
Yeah, so they have tremendous defense, really impressed by the Eurostars D. And when we make little mistakes, we're having a hard time getting it back because their offense grinds under and under and under. So we need to be a little bit more aggressive about taking away those undercuts and making them take some shots that they wouldn't necessarily like to take. And forcing them into those situations. So it's a little bit more. That's a little bit more for our O-line, but our D-line as well. Our D-line needs to probably take a little page out of their book, and when we get it, maintain possession and grind.
Well, that sounds great. How do we close this? Well, good luck for the rest of the game, and we'll be heading back into the second half shortly.
All right, beautiful. Thank you, Lori.
Welcome back to the second half, which is about to just about get underway here in Chicago. Eurostars facing up against Nemesis, who need the win here to keep the dream of the Americas Pro Cup win alive for Team America. My name is Hannah Pendlebury, and I'm delighted to be joined in the booth by Laurie Ike this fine, warm Chicago afternoon. It is a Sunday, and I believe the Nemesis side are known for their go-to-church dance move. It seems like they are on a wing and a prayer to try and get the win at this stage of the game. What are your thoughts on the first half so far, Laurie?
Well, the wind itself was really a factor in the first half, and we can see with that pull that just kind of sailed out. It's still big and strong. Nemesis is going to have to learn to work with it and use it to their advantage.
Well, we see Corcoran there on the field with the disc in hand, which has pretty much been her role all game long. Such a great distributor for the Nemesis side. Fish now puts it out in front of Davis, who's going to shoot deep, and it's going to be nicely synced into the chest of Duffner, who goes sliding to the turf for the reception. Looking for Corcoran now, back and forth she jinks, but throws into the fall afterwards. Such a promising start for Chicago, and the error.
And that was great defense there by Valchuk for the Eurostars. She really tightened in on that handler defense and made that really difficult for Duffner.
And so back underway go the Eurostars, coming out on defense in the second half, currently with a 3-point lead. A find in the form of Dull far side. Nice release, but cannot be reeled in by a laying out Lindroth. The young Swede, who was wrapped by her under-20 side on Instagram. Lots of fan stories coming out, support as we see the club teams of Europe advance towards their qualifiers, as Nemesis here advancing towards the end zone. Nice release around to Corcoran, but a pick on the field is going to bring it back into the palms of Davis.
We've got Nemesis here with an end zone opportunity. We'll see if they can capitalize.
So vertical stack, the name of the game. The around goes to Fish. He's going to pop it back to Davis. Edging ever closer, and a high backhand into the end zone for the score. It's a much needed hold for Nemesis, continuing things on serve to start us off the second half.
That was just nice movement, getting the disc around there over to the other side. Great way to finish there.
So good give going around the back. Comes good for Nemesis. Key parts there, of course. Corcoran in the red and white trucker cap, the number 12. And Ali Fish, the number 1. That's really been working well for Nemesis, have those sort of just handler give goes movement, keeping possession, resetting the stall count nicely. And also wonderful to see one of those deep shots come off. We've seen them overthrow those a couple times.
Yeah, when I talked to Jenny Corcoran before the game, she mentioned that the way that they were going to deal with the wind was really making that handler movement their first priority, and working with the handlers, using the handlers to open up the rest of the field.
Well, the pull now from Nemesis, as we see a phenomenally jazzy look. Wonder if we might get a close-up view a little bit later of the Nemesis player at the back of this zone now. Emily Willingham. Dumanskaya, though, with the range of release points, exactly displaying them there. She hits Sarah Melvin in the space, but a miscue to Lasma Kubliska of Latvia. Just twirling around, unable to get eyes on the disc. As we see the saucy, stylish grabs of Willingham there. Puts it up into the space just over the fingertips of Tizik. Now, good movement across the field to Foster, who's going to distribute towards the end zone. And what a rundown for the score, and that's a break for Nemesis.
That was a really nice inside-out throw over to the other side to Jessie Ladone.
Wonderful stuff as they get a break back, much needed in this second half, closing the gap on the Eurostars. Ladone there with the score, the 31-year-old, originally from Elmshurst, now in Chicago, wearing the number 22. She's been playing for 13 years, Laurie, so, not the oldest veteran ever, but she is, as many Ultimate players are, has an Ultimate sibling who will actually be taking the booth in Madison, Becky Ladone.
Yeah, the Ladone family is very famous in Chicago. They are fantastic players across the board, and I am always thrilled anytime I get to be on their team and not playing against them.
Yeah, that is exactly true. For most of the players out here on the field, you kind of want them on your team rather than have to try and deny them. So I briefly mentioned already, congratulations to all of the European players who've just wrapped up the qualification for the club championships in Carol, Venice later this year. Certainly the Eurostars back home have been, well, I say back home, back at our hosts' homes. We've been watching the coverage. It was very fun watching Sarah Melvin over Ireland with Maya Lindroot and Amelia Kenneth, watching altogether the two matchups between Ireland's Dublin Gravity and Iceni of London. Gravity, I believe, besting those two games. So again, we see Nemesis putting on is this a zony look or just no handler sagging into the lanes? Oh no, actually, I should have believed myself, Laurie. This is definitely a zone, and it comes good for the miscue as the Eurostars fail to connect with Paulina Dull.
And it looks like Eurostars got a hand on that one. Just a missed execution from the throw, and it was a good D by that mark.
Yeah, trying to find Emily Willingham, referred to lovingly as Willie by her friends out on the field. Nearly a Callahan for Nemesis. That was a huge effort from Esther Chauvin. Oh, and there's the wind perhaps getting the better of the disc for Europe. William's going to put it up, and it's going to be another bridge too far to be crossed for Nemesis.
The wind really tailed that right down to the ground.
And so once more against the wind go the European women. Gerner with the disc in hand, having a look around, trying to burst through the Nemesis zone. Livka Volchak with the double catch there, just making things sure. This is nice look from Nemesis, smart adjustment. Seems to really be stifling the upfield movement.
Yeah, this zone is really putting a lot of people in the way for these shorter passes that the Eurostars are used to being able to take.
And tasty footwork from Lindroot keeps disc in bounds on the near sideline. Just towing these wonderful bright yellow Porterfields. Thank you ever so much to our sponsors, Porterfield, who've kindly let us take this pitch across the length and breadth of the USA. Brinjel punches it into the middle as Chicago melted into person defense. And the Melter match does seem to be having just as much impact. A nice low release there on the swing from Volchak.
And it really looks like the Eurostars are able to find the open side right now. Nemesis needs to clamp down their defense and hold that position a little better.
A little bit of a loose mark on Dankers allows Paulina Dull to attack the sideline. But that seems to be the only option the Eurostars have at the moment. Desperately need of a reset. Eventually the gasp of oxygen up the line to Barbora Kundalita of Lithuania. She uses her reachy frame to send the disc around and back, and there's the spicy inside shot. De Lindroot goes to ground and potches another one on the board for the Europeans.
And that was a great move by Kindalita. She really took advantage and found that inside lane to be able to get up the line and get open there, and found that around throw for the goal.
Well, some missed opportunities for Nemesis there as they tried to snag a break again after getting their first on the board. But the Eurostars happy to sit on their current cushion. One break up, sitting pretty 9-7.
So Nemesis is going to have to hold this offensive point to get back on defense and try to win those breaks back.
And so big shout out to our live audience. Plenty of people tuning in as local time back home in Europe, depending on which side you live in. In my own home nation, it's but 25 minutes past 8. Central Europeans, of course, an hour ahead of us. And the Russians are full 3 hours ahead of that. So if you're staying up late or perhaps enjoying this coverage as you ice your sore legs after a hard campaign to qualify for the EUCF later on this season, welcome to you. We also have some fans on the live stream. Martin Wolherber, a big Lindrut fan, but his favourite player by far is Anna Gerner of Germany. So Nemesis now on the charge. Need the hold, and Corcoran's going to throw it a little bit too far and a little bit too low. And fourth, the captain picking it back up immediately, looks for the end zone. There is a pick call. Kenneth catches the disc, but you can see the indication from Sarah Davis. Suspiciously open was Kenneth. Fourth. Looks for the around. Finds one in the form of Kublitska. Toshnerova of the Czech Republic now has Tizik. Kublitska cutting under. Going to be looked at on the inside release. A high bladey backhand from Tizik. Finding Kenneth. Oh, and that's a hand block. But what a composure from Amelia Kenneth of Great Britain to recatch that off the bouncing hand of Davis. Goes up to fourth in the end zone, and that's a point for the Eurostars, and they take a break.
What a point. Nemesis thought they had the block and taken back away from them.
So the Europeans immediately respond after Nemesis looked like they generated some fire here in the second half of this match, snagging those 2 points on the bounce, and they respond in kind. A nice reception in that far corner. Good disc placement for the goal for Team Europe, but my oh my, that recatch off the point blocked throw where Sarah Davis did such a great job of denying Kenneth the release point she desired.
That was just great reflexes by Kenneth there. Really showing her athleticism. We got a Nemesis offensive line again. We'll see what they can do with this wind for this point.
Yeah, we cannot deny that factor. We are sat completely isolated from the conditions on the field. All we have are the flags to guide us. But a strong, well, what looks to be from our view, certainly a left to right on the field as we see it up here from our camera perches, but an ever so slight crosswind, and as Captain Bexforth of the Eurostars team told us ahead of the second half, it's very, very gusty, so unpredictable as well as strong. Nemesis now immediately throwing it deep from the brick position. A nice shot, but unable to open up the legs is Eileen Duffner. Those hip flexors not firing at full potential.
Yeah, Duffner had a lot of space to run into there, and it was just a little too far where Corcoran put it.
So perhaps a freak gust just sending that one the extra few yards to prevent the scoring pass. As the Eurostars now battling against the wind, Brinjel fiery fakes around. Another zone look from Nemesis. I think that's a pretty smart adjustment that they've made in this second half.
The Eurostars are moving it so quickly right now. Their handler movement is just crisp, and they're really forcing the Nemesis defenders to move with them.
Well, that's the adjustment they need to make at the moment, is actually how they're now all streaming through in front of the disc. That fast movement from the back, not really generating much in terms of yard gaining upfield. Oh, but that's a great little puncture through. Grażyna Chlebicka off Poland and now off to the races, but it's going to be a bit too low for Betty Schneidl.
Corcoran picking up.
Oh, and it's bat away immediately by Maya Lindroot.
Great vision by Lindroot there.
Just coming up in the mixer and causing all kinds of mischief. So Chlebicka, after opening up the zone, defenders underneath it, but Livka Volchak rises up and snags the disc for the score.
Volchak just taking nothing there. She was ready for it. She grabbed it. That was nobody's disc but hers.
So under double coverage, the Eurostars take it to 11-7. A sheer 4 points clear.
What a great grab there, man. Volchak jumped so high. She just leapt right over those defenders. You can tell this Eurostar team has been training hard and putting in the work off the field to be able to do what they need to do on the field to get that disc and get that goal.
Well, wonderful scenes from the young German player Volchak. Currently resides up in Rostock, although her hometown of Kiel is, I think, where she started playing Ultimate. Known for her big hucks and flair, but that one definitely had some great, well, it's a slightly different skill from Volchak than just throwing. But in terms of her previous successes, the EBUC, she won gold back last year at the end of the season.
Am I right that she juggles as well?
She does indeed juggle. I thought from your hand motion here in the booth, Laurie, that you were trying to get me to finish my point. But yeah, she does indeed have wonderful juggling skills.
She's very talented.
Which I think she's being currently, what's the word? Her sensei, her teacher in juggling, actually is one of the Swiss women's national team, her good friend, Lara Kunzelmann. So hello to you, Laura, if you're watching this, and thank you ever so much for your lovely kind words when we chatted at the European Championships. We're staying in the same hotel. So, oh, great redemption clap catch from Nemesis on the far sideline.
That's a signature Jessie Ladone move.
Oh, and it's just a battle in the air there as Nemesis put up very high shots indeed. Kublitska coming in and batting it to the turf. And a punchy around break. Going to be followed by a huge put from fourth. Just sails a little bit too far for the young Latvian to reel in.
It really looks like the Eurostar team is picking up the energy right now. Nemesis is going to have to match if they want to stay in this game.
Well, Kublitska there, a difficult player to overthrow. Only 5'5", the 29-year-old coming out of Riga, Latvia. She currently coaches the Salaspils FC club, which have been rising to prominence back in Europe. Shout out to the under 20 mixed team who got Latvia's first gold medal as the Eurostars shoot for goal. And that's Sarah Melvin off the palm of Dumanskaya. So a short jink is all that is required. And at this stage in the game, as the Eurostars punch in their third break in a row, Laurie, what do Nemesis have to do to change the fate?
Well, Nemesis is going to have to get a little crisper with their throws and really make sure that they're executing. It's keeping those throws low, keeping them flat, and making sure that the only defense out there is going to be the Eurostars for them. So they want to make sure that as they're executing, that the wind is not a factor. They want to take that out of there. But really, it's just cleaning it up a little bit, and then really buckling down on defense, challenging every disc, and taking their energy and their aggressive defense to those Eurostars to be able to get that disc back when they need it.
Well, as we've already highlighted, this is a must-win game for Nemesis if they're going to try and keep the hopes of Team America alive, and they have to actually stop the Eurostars from scoring any more than 1 point as they advance towards the win, because if they win in sudden death and only by 1, they won't take enough for the tally to surmount the current 8-3 lead.
There's still a chance.
Oh, there's always a chance. It ain't over till it's over.
There's plenty of ultimate left to play.
So Corcoran, centre of the field. It's been so reliable thus far. A bit of a hesitation on the undercut from Lipscomb, who's definitely been one of the favoured targets in the deep space. Now we find number 25. Sneakily not on my roster ball, but Davis now seems a little bit hesitant from Nemesis initially, but eventually the cuts do come. Nice under, just grinding the disc up the field. Nice pass across. Oh, and that's a nice idea, but once again, Nemesis throwing the disc just that tiny bit too early. They see the cut developing, but don't quite have the separation available to put it out that far in front.
Yeah, the disc is a little too bladey, a little bit too outside in to be able to really sail in this wind. So it's just tanking down, and it's hard to read. It's hard to get there fast enough.
And so Dahl now, sorry, no, it's Gerner. We've been talking all too long about how Paulina Dahl of Poland and Anna Gerner of Germany look the same, and finally I fall foul of it in the booth as Gerner puts up a sensational scuba to the far side of the field. Betty Schneidel of Austria, they're in target for that one, plays for Vienna box, helping to coach that side and her women's nationals program. Libitska being forced by the Chicago zone to just throw backwards. Oh, and that's a huge sneaking grab. What a play for Davis. Just reaches the arm around Livka Volchak, but it's going to be a little bit too far, and devastation for Corcoran. And
Gerner picking up the disc.
Indeed, wearing that fetching red headband. Playing some give-goes. The zone still working out for Nemesis. Just causing that a little bit of patience. So sad to see Davis's huge defensive play not being able to be converted for a score, but that's going to put a little bit of fear into the hearts of this Eurostars offense. Such a lethal player sitting in that centre pocket, just communicating with the team.
Nemesis is really taking up all that space in the front of the field right now. They're making it really challenging for the Eurostars to be able to pop it through.
Well, they now find the jailbreak, start to go to work. Huge collision on the field. Volchak going up for the disc, but taking a bit of Abby Shaw on the way up. So an uncontested foul on the field. And the Eurostars will retain possession. So the zone still making the Eurostars play conservatively. We've seen in previous matches, my mind thinks of the game against Seattle Riot, but a few short days ago, although it feels like a long time here on the Eurostars tour, that zone actually managed to get the Eurostars to slow down and use their heads after they were playing rather scrappily. But here, it's just stifling the momentum that the Eurostars had attained.
Nemesis is doing a great job right now of keeping the Eurostars contained down on this end of the field and kind of in this corner of the field as well, over on the sideline. And Eurostars are really going to have to chisel away to break through. And here it goes. Big throw here.
Oh, and that's a wonderful big backhand launch from Grażyna Chlebicka of Poland. Finds Lindroot, who punches it into the score for the Austrian Betty Schnedel.
That was a great follow by Schnedel. She saw the disc go up, she went to the end zone, and she was right there for her teammate so she could finish it off.
And you can see the celebrations there. Glorious throws from Chlebicka of Poland. Devastating the deep space. Finally, the Eurostars managed to overload the deeps after that 2-3-2 setup had worked so well. That wall in the middle, the communication to just stifle the under movement of the Europeans was really good.
And the Europeans did a great job of maintaining composure, maintaining possession of that disc, and just being patient. They took the throws that were available to them until that deep shot opened up, and then they capitalized.
So this game has been very unlike the others in terms of shape. We started off here in Chicago just trading out through that first half up until we got to 4-5 when the Eurostars were able to take the first break, bring it to 6-4, and then of course that last break to take half 8-5. But this is becoming a bit of a bloodbath for Nemesis. It just seems like they're flustered on their offense, trying a little bit too hard. They're making the smart defensive adjustments, but just can't quite contain themselves on offense.
Yeah, we'll see if they can clean it up a little bit in the rest of this half. They're going to need to have a perfect record after this in order to take the cup.
Indeed they will, but even if they only manage to snag it with a comeback by one, there's still $1,000 prize money here on the line for each of these games, as the ball will roll out of bounds and be brought back in by the number 9, Cassandra Brown, who was pretty lethal in the early stages. Been quieter during the midsection of the game, as that's a bit of a miscue, but picked off out of the air by Sarah Melvin of Ireland as the Eurostars move so rapidly. But what a block! Out goes the big glove palm of Emily Willingham, getting the disc back for Chicago.
And Willingham was looking deep there, but now is taking that swing and resetting that offense.
Kim putting out to space to Moore. Willingham's going to fire one out of the cannon. That is a spicy flick. Lots of contact downfield. Might see a foul call as Kenneth gets up in the mixer with, I can't quite see the tiny number.
It's Jessie Ladone.
Of course, Ladone. The Battle of the Blondes.
Yeah, that was a great run by Ladone out there. She really accelerated out of that cut and was really headed towards that disc. So we'll see what happens with this call.
Well, thank you ever so much to everybody who has reached out to us here on the live stream. Particular shout out to Rachel Toshnerova, or Rachel Toshi as we like to call her, a fellow female commentator. And if you are interested in doing commentary and you are, of any age, any gender, any background, we'd love to have you up here in the booth. If you reach out to us on Twitter, we can maybe make that happen for you. But Toshnerova, the elder Toshnerova, although she still looks about 17, watching at home, saying that all the EUCR East teams are super proud of their Eurostars. Go Sarah, Grażyna, Betty and Paulina. We've all been having pretty good games so far. I particularly enjoyed the Instagram stories of Cheer for Grażyna, as the troubles of Poland were getting their opponents to cheer, as we see on the field there. Nemesis overthrowing Sada Kim, unfortunately thrown just behind her back. The gold medalist at the under-24s division, not quite managed to teleport her body from one direction to the other yet. Tizik now finding Kublitska. Nice big high release backhand, but a pick or pause. And back underway, Kenneth launching it, and what a sensation of a grab that was for Aliza Tizik to bring it within one.
Tight pressure from Matsumoto there, but not quite enough.
That does seem to be the theme of this game, Laurie. Every time we've seen Nemesis get so inches, hair's breadth close to making a defensive bid, but they just can't quite put their hand in the millimeter perfect space to get it.
And the Eurostars are doing a great job of catching under pressure. Everything that looks contested up from up here in the booth, Eurostars are being able to are really coming down with those, and those tight windows that we're throwing into here. Eurostars are able to catch those even with the defender really close by.
Well, a timeout here on the field, as the Nemesis coaching staff will have to find some words of magical wisdom. Eurostars, of course, now sitting in the enviable position of having double the scoreline of their opponents, and I'm not sure necessarily any of them will be keenly aware of this fact on the field, Laurie, but they've done enough now to secure themselves the Americas Pro Cup.
Well, congratulations to the Eurostars. That's a huge accomplishment.
It certainly is. They've defeated the current world champions, the USAU champions, and now are we going to see them defeat Chicago Nemesis too?
We'll see. The game's not over yet. Nemesis has come back from games before, and maybe we're about to see an 8-point run.
Well, they are a young, feisty team who love dancing. We saw a beautiful showing at half-time between both teams, just getting involved, enjoying the atmosphere here, fans in the stands under the lovely warm Chicago sun. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them stage a comeback here if they can get that first point. It's all about this possession, seeing if they can do it cleanly and quickly.
This team's got grit and this team's got heart. I wouldn't be surprised.
So coming out on defense, the Eurostars. Gerner there with the pull after throwing that heavenly scuba here on Sunday in the afternoon. As these two teams prepare, of course, first match point opportunity. Eurostars are playing 2 lines of 8. 16 strong is their roster. Just rotating through the players as Lindrut's there running down the pole. Fish, the captain of Nemesis, with the disc, finds Corcoran streaming down from the deep into the hander position. Clearly trying to set her up with lots of momentum. Matsumoto, who was so close to Tizik. Oh, a nice one-hand grab from JJ Jarek there on the field. Corcoran is going to put one up. Is it good this time? Yes, it is. Perfectly into the space, but oh my, Matsumoto unable to make the clap catch. And the hearts sink of Chicago everywhere. Brinjal looking for the around, eventually finds a miles free goal in the center of the field. Schneebel back to Brinjal. All of the players on the field playing both lines, but that is a beautiful backhand into the space. The Germans connect, and that is game for Europe, 15-7.
What a way to end that game. That was such a great throw and just a speedy run down to space.
Yeah, Lufka Volchak had just sawn free of her matchup. But what a way to finish out the second half. And this game, just so many unanswered points in a row after such a commendable performance from Chicago's Nemesis, trading out the first half up until those 2 breaks that the Eurostars snuck through at the end. But then it's all about the business end for this game, going on an unanswered point lead from, well, that's, hold on, from we were at 9-7 to the Europeans, and then they took it to 15-7. So that's, let me just count these out just to trust my own maths, Laurie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points in a row. How does that work? Should be 6.
Well, that was a great run by the Eurostars. They really showed in the second half how crisp and clean they could play. They maintained their composure. They didn't let up. They kept their athleticism. You could really tell how hard they've been training. They were able to just keep running and keep gritting through, keep catching those highly contested throws, and that's really what made that last half for them go so quickly and so smoothly.
Yes, indeed. And trusting my mathematics and my counting skills, yes, it is 7 points on the bounce. 6 breaks is my bit of confusion there. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this live stream. It's been delightful to watch. That is the Europeans. Team Europe have sealed the deal for the Americas Pro Cup. They'll be taking home the trophy this year, but do not forget we still have one more game to go. We'll be heading over to Madison for the matchup against Heist, and I hear that, Laurie, they had 1,500 people approximately at their league final, so I'm sure there'll be a wonderful home crowd, plenty of atmosphere to G up both teams.
Yeah, the Madison Ultimate scene is huge, and I would expect to see them all come out to see. What a great opportunity to see these European All-Stars playing against your local home team. It's a huge opportunity. You don't want to miss it.
Well, there you see the previous scoreline in the Americas Pro Cup. We did have the 8-3 lead, but now, of course, that is extended by a further full 3 points. It's now 13? No, I'm going mad. It's 11-3. I'm like, you can see that game has drained all of my energy. But never mind. It's a great stuff for the women of Europe. Congrats on sealing the deal with the Cup ladies. But do join us for more action in this series over in Madison. If you've enjoyed this coverage, please do consider making a donation to the tour. You can head over to www.eurostarstour.com/support, and we accept any donations, whether it's $1,000, $10,000, or just 10. Whatever you can afford. If you're enjoying this coverage and you want to support the program in general, of course, this is all about inspiring women to start playing Ultimate and to give the opportunity for the talents of Europe to show the North Americans what they can do when they come together as a continent. I've been Hannah Pendlebury. Laurie, it's been a delight to be joined by you in your first ever booth experience.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been fantastic.
Is there anyone you'd like to shout out before we close?
I'd like to shout out all of the female athletes in Chicago, the members of the Chicago Sky. I would love us to have a female competitive athletic union of some sort. I want all of these professional athletes who are these role models for all of these women coming up through the ranks. Thank you for being our role models. Thank you for being great representatives of sports and athleticism for all of the young women and men out there.
Yes, indeed, and thank you also so much to the host of this game here, Chicago's Wildfire, the local AUDL team, who've been so kind in helping us organize this game and this live stream. Shout out to our main man producer Tim, who's been an absolute champion as we've been trying to bring you the best coverage possible here under the conditions. And as you already mentioned, Laurie, wonderful to have so many different female athletes watching this live stream. And hello to the players of the Chicago Sky, who I think are over in Phoenix. But either way, best of luck for the rest of your season. Join us again in Madison. We'll be back here with more Eurostars action in a few days.